welcome to drafting a floor plan. We're going to do a basic single room floor plan draft today. I'll get my camera centered in here. And some of the tools of the trade would be some things you see here. I'm going to make some notes with this in a minute. But we have an eraser shield, architectural scale is key, mechanical pencil, having replacement leads nearby. Also having your triangle. I have a few mechanical pencils just for backup in case mine kind of wear out of some lead. But they all would do the 05, and that's a really good one for wall thickness. That way when you're measuring, the thickness of it really isn't much different than where you're measuring. A couple different erasers. There's a chunk eraser. This one's pretty handy because it's a little bit smaller, but you utilize it along with your eraser shield there, even if it was a big one. And then to securely mount your paper in place, you want to have drafting dots. And then this is a, oh gosh, very strong paper for erasing and drawing with its format, which is the vellum paper. Now, there'll be a drawing to draft. I'm just going to get these things out of the way. Let me go ahead and I'll zoom in a bit. Okay, so for the drawing, we need to know what size we have to draw. And the goal for this video demo is to draw this floor plan in 1/4 inch scale. And I'm going to show tacking down the paper, laying it all out. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to draft what's called a floor plan. And we're going to start by noticing what the overall size of the space is, which is 13 feet by 14 feet, 0 inches. The single mark means feet. The double mark means inches. So we'll start by drawing a square, and then we'll add our wall thicknesses. And we can see within the notes here, it gives us some handy tools about how many inches are in a foot, because when we work in the architectural scale, in this case, we're going to be doing 1/4 inch scale. When we look at the scale, just put the cap back in. When we work in 1/4 inch scale, it reads feet and inches. So every line to the right of 0 is an inch. And these smaller marks are 6, 1 foot, 18 inches, 24 inches, etc. Now you're seeing some bigger numbers because that's what we're seeing over from the 1/8 inch side. So you're using 2 different scales on one. So you find your 1/4 inch side, you start at 0 and count your way over for 4 full feet. And then if you have any extra sizes, like that aren't exact foot, then you're going to go ahead and use your inches over in this side. We're going to keep it pretty simple today with all just rounded feet to get started. But this is very important to have. After we create our box, that's 13 by 14, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to add in wall thicknesses, and then we'll pay attention to where our doors are in converting these over to dashed lines. And that's where the eraser shield, pretty handy, can come in, and you can just run your eraser along those dots and it'll make a dashed line. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to get my paper ready here. And if you're following along with me, you can do the same. I'm going to get my vellum, my 18-inch, 8.5 by 11-inch vellum. And to get started, we're going to go ahead and tack that down on the board. Now what's important to note about the boards is we'll center the paper on the board. And then what you need to do is notice how to operate your bar. It isn't appropriate to be sliding it from the side because a lot of times that can torque it. There's a whole wire system on the back that if you just simply pick up and slide it, it will work fine. And if you're picking it up, it also, once we put drafting dots down, is not going to catch it. So that's important. The other thing to notice is there's knobs on the top. These are holding your brackets in place. So you always want these tight. These on the side, and sometimes you may just have one on the side, these are like your brakes. I don't typically put these on, and when you get started, if you find that it's hard to move that bar, probably the brakes are on. Now there's some other knobs on the bottom that if you find your bar is shifting, you may need to tighten those up. For today, I'm just going to keep moving along just to give you some general notes about how these things work. So again, make sure that those top ones are nice and tight. Setting it in the middle, I'm also going to just try to get the paper as square to the board as possible as well. Once you start, it's going to be square onto itself, but it can be a little, like a little eye illusion if you don't have it straight to the bar. It may kind of throw you off a little bit. And then another thing too is if you were to take your drawing and put it back on, you always want to line it up with that bar again to get started. Another note to make here about utilizing your tools is that we're going to use that mechanical pencil, and it's important that you use a true mechanical pencil. Let me get out one that would be kind of the idea. I like some of the inexpensive Bic pencils. I'm just seeing if I can find one to show you here. Let's see if I have one here. Yeah. So, I mean, there are some individual simple Bic pencils. These are not going to work. They're not fine enough. Most of the time they're an 07, and that's what we don't want. We want to make sure we have the 05. So make sure that you're using a true mechanical pencil. I put all dots around all corners of the paper. That's really important so it doesn't slide on you. And then the other thing I'm going to do before I move on is I'm going to put an extra one down at the bottom, because as much as I may pick up my bar so it doesn't hit those dots, every so often if it might lift, especially if it's kind of a weird dot or a bad quality dot, it might lift up on you, and you want to make sure that it's not going to catch and get stuck under the bar, because then it sticks to everything you're doing. We're going to use our bar to make horizontal lines, and we're going to use our triangle to make vertical lines. And it's very important to run your arm, not so much like you're coming from the side, because you'll never be able to see where it is. So you really want to line up your shoulder and your arm where it's coming straight down the pencil. Now, as you develop and keep working through, another great thing to do, because you have your lead in there, believe it or not, it's quite thin, but it can get kind of flat, and it changes what we call line weight. You want to keep it a consistent line weight. So if you were to take it and roll it at the same time, and that may just come with some practice, but you want to take it and you want to roll it. And you want to make sure you're not doing this or this. It's really got to be what we would call like 90 degrees this way, and then you can relax it to your hand, whether you're right or left-handed, where you're running at like at a 45 this way. But you want to make sure you're not angling in there, because if you do this as you go down, that's where one corner of the square might be a different size than the other. So let's go back to getting started with our floor plan. And we talked about how for this space, it was 13 feet by 14 feet. I'm going to identify generally the middle of the page to do that drawing. We'll put some additional labeling down here as well at a future time. For right now, we're just going to focus on drawing the walls and the openings. But I am going to anticipate that I'll have some labeling there. So the place to get started is to take a look. If I orient what I had with my Norcem, I'm just going to draw it in really lightly, because it's best to formally label it later. But if I were to do that, just to keep myself connected to this in case my paper turns or I can't remember where I'm at, always notice that site orientation with the north symbol. Don't write east, west, south. You just always write north, and then that arrow would point to that particular wall. So this is our north, this is our south, this is our east, and this is our west. And if you're starting to begin that, you could always write it out to get yourself started. But this would be the idea of, I go out to a client's house, I document what the sizes are, and you really want to pay attention to, your light qualities that are coming into the space, and certain temperatures of light, like north windows would be very cool to the light. And this would be a warmer in the evening, especially in the summer when the sun is setting in the west. Back to the 14 by 13. So I'm going to run it that same orientation. So I'll start by centering it for the 14 feet across. And when we're doing this, let me see if I can get it nice and close. Okay. I'm going to start with 0, and I'll put a little mark, and I'm going to do it like a line. I'm not going to do it like a dot, because when I go back over later to draw my line, if I don't have a line like that to line back up, that can be a little bit tricky. So here I go back to that, and then we're going to mark that at 14 feet. Now, if you're uncomfortable with making sure that it's square, you could kind of lay it up there if you like, if that helps you to make sure it's square to the page. If you want to do something like that to get started, you certainly could. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 feet, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 feet, because remember, we're going to try to do that at 13 by 14. So that would be 14, and you can see that I've centered it. Let me come out again. We've centered it in the page. Now I have to go the 13-foot direction. So I'm going to orient it, and I'm keeping in mind that I'll probably do like just a little light, some labeling down at the bottom at a future time, because you have to talk about scale and all that. It's probably a little high. I'll probably do something like that. So you can take that eraser around just in case I end up drawing the lines in. Oh, and one other tool I don't think I mentioned was this drafting brush. This is a great way, rather than with your hands that's going to smear your drawings, you just want to use your drafting brush to brush that away. All right, now I'm going to go ahead in, and I'm going to plan for that 13 feet. Come in a little closer there. Now, if I did it where I have my 2 marks on my 14, I'm going to come across, and notice I'm going to hold it at that angle. I'm not tucking it under, I'm running it along, and I'm going to drag that across. Now, I've gone past my initial marks, and that's okay, because what can happen is it's better if you would take this and erase out the corners at a later time than worry about it being perfect. So just as our parts of getting started here and showing you some of the tools quickly, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean that up on the edge, and I'm going to go ahead and clean it up on the edge. And then you just wipe that away. So you're covering over with the metal what you want to keep. Later I'll show you how to do that dash line. Okay, now we talked about the 13 feet, so let's go ahead and line that up. So what I'm thinking here is I'm looking at 1 foot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. So I'm going to set my mark down here at 0. And I'm doing it right in the middle of that line, and I'm doing it as a line, because if I do a dot, you're not so clear where you're supposed to run your pencil through. So that would be a big recommendation I would make over years of doing this, that would help you be successful. So I would really encourage you to take that approach. And if I'm working with you, that's definitely going to come up as well if I find that the measurements are off. All right, now I'm going to carry this, and I'm going to make sure that the pencil is going to go right through the middle of that mark, and then I'm just going to drag it across. Now this is another reason why the mechanical pencil is important, because if you look at that distance there, that's to help you clear the thickness of your bar. If you were using that simple, inexpensive kind of pencil, notice the difference. You're not gonna be able to get that in because that thickness is gonna hold you up, whereas this is gonna allow you to set it in. So that's another important reason why you have this. Okay, I'm gonna move it down. Notice I'm picking it up to move it. Now vertical lines, we don't have to guess and we don't have to measure twice. The beauty of our tools is that I can take this triangle, right? So I take the triangle and I'm resting it on the bar. I don't need to measure this and try to line it up and try to see, oh, which is it for straight. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm putting it this way. If you're left-handed, you could turn it this way. If I take this and I go back to that mark, close I can come in to show you, there we go. I'm gonna come in, and again, because I have that line, I know where to run it. I'm gonna make sure it goes right through the middle of that line. And then I'm going to bring, oops, well, there we go. Here's our eraser. Okay, so let's start again. And I'm going to actually erase it back up to that corner, because if you stop and start your line, you'll see that it doesn't look like one continuous line. So I'll keep what I have up there, but I'll start again here. All right, so I'm going to come in here and just bring that line down, and I'm trying to rotate my pencil a little bit as I go to keep it nice and sharp. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do the same thing. And that now is, or should be, the 13 by 14 foot square. And you want to make sure that this is good before you move on, because if you spend any more time on it and you build all the rest of your drawing, you're going to have to start all over again. So this is really important to think of it like your interior space is that 13 by 14, and does it really measure that? I'm going to double check. Even after all these years, I still double check. And I'm going to make sure that it is 14 feet on this side. And it's 14 feet. Now, I think that looks a little shy, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that again. You can see it's a little bit shy of that 14. Let's see if I do the 13. Yep, 13 is right on the mark, and over here 13 is on the mark, but I'm not happy with that 14. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to erase it, and I'm going to use my eraser shield. And you run that over your line so that it doesn't mess with a lot of the rest of your drawing. Now there might be a little bit left over for seeing it, but when you run copies and so forth, you'll never see it. Now in our work, it's best to have an HB lead. It has to do with the hardness scale. So this is enough that it shows well for drawings. If my lead is softer, it may get very dark and smeary. If it's too hard, it's going to indent my paper when I try to go erase it, and then that makes it difficult too, and you have to press a lot firmer. So HB is really an ideal lead. Let's go back to 14 feet and making sure that I'm accomplishing that. Okay, so I'm going to put that 0. Now notice that, see that 05, I can line it right up with the center of my line. And here was the 12 feet, 13 feet, and 14 feet right on the mark. So that should be better. And you can see how I'm coming over a little bit from the other side. I don't need to check it down at the bottom. Now I did check it to make sure I didn't kind of angle my pencil. But when you draw it, if you're on the right angle, you should be able to just bring it down, come down. Now the only thing I need to do is you don't want to under connect your lines, if you call it that. It's better to overlap than underlap, that's the word. So I'm going to take that over, and again, just pull that through. Just kind of drag that in. And we're going to double check that. It's important again, and you can see that there's a difference. So it's good we took the time now to fix that. And there we are. We're 14 feet right on the mark. I'm not going to worry too much about these overlaps. I'm going to keep moving. The drawing doesn't have to be perfect yet. We can always erase out things. So at this point now we have a box to work with, and I need to come up with the rest of the drawing. In this case, we have windows that are operable. So we've got 2 lines in there. They're operable, like a double hung window. Later on, this would be information we use to create elevations, but for now we just need to worry about lengths and widths because we're in plan view. The wall thicknesses for the interior are going to be 5, and the wall thicknesses for the exterior are going to be 7. So wherever you see a wall that you have a room on the other side, you know you're still in the interior of the home. Hence, we have an interior wall. So this wall will be 5, and this wall will be 5. Now, when we move to walls that have these windows and no adjacent spaces identified, plus a break line, which is showing that a wall continues, goes down the structure out here. Now, this wall does continue, and we have interior rooms, but these windows and no label of another space on the other side is a real indicator that it's an exterior wall. So we're going to make these to be 7 inches thick and 7 inches thick. Then we'll go in and talk about these doorways, which are passageways that are 7 feet high, just to give you an idea. And again, that would be more relevant to a elevation drawing. And then ceilings, just as an idea, just to give you an idea, they're 8 foot high ceilings. But again, height information is not indicated in what we call a plan view. We only use lengths and widths of the room. So the break line symbol here is where the wall continues, but we don't need to draw the whole house because we're just focusing on this room. Again, we've talked about how there's feet and inches and how we use those abbreviations. And those will relate to the heights. Okay. Let's continue on. So we've got our 13 by 14 foot space. And now I'm going to slide my camera over here a little bit so you can see both. So now when we have it, we're going to add our wall thickness, but we have to go to the outside. This is an interior wall. And I talked about how for reading inches, you will go to the right of 0. So let's go ahead and bring that in. Oh, gotta slide it back over. All right. So for this, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your wall line at 0, and then every single line to the right of 0 is an inch. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So that's going to go just shy of 6. Remember, there are 12 inches to a foot. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So this is my interior. This was the side that I had the kitchen. So I'm doing it as 5 inches thick. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. My next wall is going to be... I'll do another interior wall so that I kind of keep in the flow on that. Here's the 0, and then I'm going to come in at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Again, 1 shy of that 6. So make sure you can kind of double check yourself that way. All right, so that's going to go to the 5. And then we have these 2 walls, which was 7 and 7 because they're exteriors. I'm going to come here, and I'm going to flip. I want to show you. I'm going to flip the scale just so I can set it at 0 like I've been working with. Doesn't really matter that I'm just counting the lines, so I'm just going to still put it at 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're going to go 1 past for the 7. Take your time. They're small lines. They might kind of play with your eyes a little bit. And again, if I can do a bit of a line, that can really help me see how to line it up. And then I'm going to go to my 7 up at the top as well. Move the angle in here so you can see that. Looks like this time. Now, if your bar gets in the way, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slide this guy up. That way I can lay it nice and flat on the board, and I'm setting my mark so that that line's in the middle of 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I'm going to be at that 7-inch mark. 6 and 7. Okay. I just want to double check that from this angle. Yep. Okay. Now what we'll do is let's go ahead and draw the wall. I'm not going to worry about these break lines yet or the windows. The fastest thing to do is just to go ahead and draw out that layer around it to show the structure. I'm going to rest that triangle down on the base of the bar to draw my vertical line here on the page. And I'll drag it across here. And again, I'm just going through the middle of my line, like so. And then this would be the exterior there. And making sure my pencil's going right through the middle of that mark before I start dragging it across. And same thing here, I'm just gonna check and make sure that my lead's going right through the middle of that. And that way I can start at one side and just drag it across like so. And again, before moving on, I'm just gonna double check and make sure that we've got 5, we've got 7, we have, oh, nope, I don't like that. I don't like that one. I'm going to go ahead and we'll erase that off. And I'm going to do that again for a 7. Now I could do that. I could also run it across the top. And sometimes if you're slightly off, it's just better to just erase the whole thing and start again. So I'm going to make sure I don't get confused by what's still there. Okay, then you come in. I'm going to set that at that 7-inch mark. Making sure I have that there. Alright, that should be better. Yep, coming up a little bit there. And sometimes that can just be if I didn't go through the middle of the line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again and bring it across. And let's just double check that that is going to be the 7-inch thickness for that wall, because that's an exterior wall. Yeah, we're right on the money. This one is 7 and this one is 5 and that one is 5. Because again, we are meeting what we had for interior and exterior walls. Great. Now what we can do is we can start to create the break lines. I find it's best to rest your triangle on top. If you were trying to do this all the time, see how it would slide? So always just let gravity help you. And I'm going to come back in just to touch up, not the whole line, just that corner, making sure it goes right through the middle there. And I'll clean that up. Now, because the break line's going to show the wall's going to come out, I'm going to carry that line, make sure it intersects really well there, bring it out here. I'll bring that same distance there, and I'm going to carry my line down. Now, if I would have gone a little bit longer, that could have worked fine too, and I could have always erased it, but it is what it is. Let's go in and let's start to see where we have interior walls. We want to clean out these lines so that there's nothing in what we would maybe call the cavity of the wall. If I have lines there, it means that the wall height is different. So we want to make sure that this is all cleared out to show that they're one continuous height. Again, if the lines overlap, that's okay. Okay, great. I'm gonna clean this one out a little better. So as long as it's there, they can see that as just part of the drawing, but there's nothing in the intersection itself. Okay, let's talk about that break line symbol. Here's how I would suggest you draw a break line symbol. You usually go about, a foot, foot and a half beyond your wall. I'm going to do it about a foot. So if I imagine like it's about a foot out here and about a foot coming out this way. There isn't really a tried and true rule. It's sometimes a little confusing though, if like you had another closet or another room closer by, might be where you drag it out more. And what I'm going to do to draw that is I'm going to draw the line like this and this, top and bottom. That way they will line up. So I'll clean this off to the side. And then I'm going to work the break line symbol. You can do it like a Z. You can do it like an S. Oh, okay. Look at this one. This one should not come down. I should have this go across. So we'll go ahead and fix that. So I'll have to connect my line in there. Better to do it all at one time, but in this case, I think I'm just going to go ahead and bring it all the way across, and then it looks like I need to clean that out as well. Clean that guy out. There we go. Now it's all open. I must think I missed that before. Sorry if I said it was open. It was open this way, but it wasn't open that way. Now all the sides are open. And then I'll do the same thing. I did that little foot mark there. In this case, now I'm going to use the bar to draw sort of like there's the other pencil, a top and a bottom sort of thing. Come in, erase it, pass, so cover over what you want to keep. And erase that out and brush it away. And then I'll just come in and try to do a similar symbol like I did here. Again, that is a break line, and that means that the wall continues, but we are not showing it. Next, following what we have is there's two windows, and there's another window here, and then we have pass-through. Let's work with these pass-throughs. It means that there's a section of wall above, and that's why this information was important to understand. Dash lines are used in a drawing when something exists above the 4-foot mark or it's hidden. We'll go ahead and create that here. Now, what's really good about the way we did it is because we're going to use our eraser shield with the dash line to clean it out. It shows here that, it's in grid, so we'll see here we've got as this is 1 foot. So you can use the grid paper as kind of a general idea, but until you have a scale drawing, you can't really count on it. This one would be 3 feet. And then the remainder would be down in this section, which if we see it's 13 feet, come in. Got a lot going on there, don't we? Okay, so here, if I have 1 and 4 to make it 13, that would be 9 feet. So it's always good to check yourself and make sure that, like here, if we had 1 and 3 and 10, we would know that that would add up to 13. So when you do your measures, you always want to make sure those add up. So now we're going to go ahead and do our 1 foot mark here. I'm going to go a little bit off of the drawing. It's easier to erase it if I'm off. So there was the 1 foot away from the wall. And it says that the door is 3 feet wide. So here's 1, 2, and 3. And then just to double check what we were seeing here is that it's got to be 9. So if I measure from the line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, everything measures up. So that's great. Now coming in, I'm going to use the line that I had here and connect my line in the wall. connect my line in the wall, and then bring your eraser shield over the line that you want to erase. So if I do something like this, I'm going to try to line them up. So I'm just going to do a little mark there. That way when I go in here, so you can see that, I don't know if you can see that little dot in there. Let me come in. I just did a little dot here. And when I lay out my eraser shield, I'm just looking for that little dot. And it looks like I'll run 3 here. Now we rip it away, and now we have a dashed line. And because it's best to have those line up, I'm going to look for that same little mark I did, and I erased 3 dots to fill the cavity of that doorway. So again, it's best to have those lines meet up. Now we'll do the other one in the same manner, same steps. It says that it is 1 foot from the wall and a 3 foot. So here's my 1 foot. Here's 3 feet. And again, just to double check that it's 10 feet here, I'm going to measure from the last mark, and yes, it's at 10 feet. I'm going to do anything freehand. I'm going to take the time here to run my triangle and make sure that it's all square. Going to do the same thing I did before. I'll just do a little mark there to set my eraser shield in place. And we know we had about 3 dots there, so I'll do that. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, just slide her down. Try to line them up as best I can. It's just showing the person looking at your drawing, you know, say for your portfolio or so, that you really took the time to line things up and pay attention to details is why you're doing that. Okay, so now we have this, and I'm gonna make sure this is still nice and square. Yep, my paper was waving a little bit. All right, now we've got those openings, those 2 doorways. Now what I want to do is focus on these windows. So we'll start by plotting out 3 feet, 3 feet, 3 feet, and then we should end up with 2 at the end. Oops, make sure my drafting dot's holding this down. Okay, we're going to double check that, and I'm going to do it before I ever start drawing anything. I'm going to go this direction now. This was the 2 feet. Okay, then we have 3 feet. Now you could also do it in the wall cavity, right? So if I do this, I've got 2 feet there. Then I've got 3 feet here. That's probably better so you can see it. 3 feet. Now we're going to do another 3 feet. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do another 1, 2, 3 feet. And then by the time I get done, I should have 3 feet left over. Yep, just like that. So you want to make sure that those are all set. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do those lines that are perpendicular to the wall. And I'm just resting my bar. Come out. I'm resting my bar on there while I draw the line. Because any vertical line, I want to rest it on the bar. Come back in here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 lines to show that it's an operable window. And this is pretty simple. You don't have to measure a lot. You could if you wanted, but I'm just gonna eye them and just make sure that those are evenly spaced. And then what I do is I bring my bar up. Again, I'm picking the bar up, laying it down, and once I see that my pencil goes through the middle, I can take it through that window, and I can take it through that window. And then I can do this here, line through here, and the line through there. So now I have those in place. And then the next one I'm going to do is this window here. And it says that it's 2 feet from that north wall. Find my quarter. So I've got 1 foot, 2 foot. So I'm just resting that 2 foot there, making my 1 foot mark. Oh, I'll do that again like I do in the wall for you to see. Okay, so make sure we got it right there in the 2 foot. I want it down a little more. Okay. And then I'm going to set it at 3 feet. And just to make sure I've planned everything correct, it says it should be 8 feet from there on down. Yep. I'm going to come in. I'm going to follow that little bit lower line there. And here as well. And just like I did the technique of 2 dots just within the center of that wall cavity, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here and the same thing here. There we are. Let's see if we've got everything. Okay, we have a room that was the 13 by 14 based on what we had for the sketch. We were drawing it in 1/4 inch scale, so every time we went to the 1/4 inch side of the ruler, we made sure that we had 2 windows, 1 doorway, break line, a doorway here, break line. Again, the wall continues. We made sure this was 8 feet, the 3 feet for the window. And later we would diagram everything up. For right now, we just had a quick little identifier to make sure it matched our measurement sketch. And that's how you draft a floor plan.